So to get back to step two, to become, to be concise, my own personal experience with it was observational. It says we came to believe, so that means something has happened. So I already came to believe that a power greater than myself has restored me to sanity. The insanity was concerning the first drink. So what happened is, after a few months of recovery, after a couple weeks actually, I I had observed that I had been restored to sanity because I hadn't drank concerning the drink. So for me, that's the aspect of it. Another part of it is that it's not demanding any belief in any kind of God or any kind of concept of things. It's just a willingness to have an open mind, to stay open, and to see maybe, if you want to give it a name called a higher power, that something is working in your life. It may just be the program where before you couldn't live a day without drinking, and now you've been living a few months without drinking. So something has assisted you, something has come into your life that wasn't available before you entered the program. So now we get to step three. There are, first of all, let me go over some of these things I underlined. There are some people that really know the book in and out, and they can break down every syllable and everything like that. I'm more of a free range alcoholic, you know. To me, the whole point is to be free, even from the book, in a sense. The whole point is to be free, where you get to a point where you're free of AA. It doesn't mean you leave AA, but there's a freedom. And to me, without the freedom, the steps would just be a self-help program. And the freedom doesn't come from the steps. The steps are just a portal, in my view, for grace to come in. Yeah? It's the grace, it's that power of that higher power. That's what's initiating, fulfilling, filling up, completing any movement in my life. It's not something that I did. What I seem to have done opened me up to that energy. I am not the source of that energy. I did not find it through my own endeavors. The principles of AA opened me up to its influence. And yet it's the influence that to me is the gold mine of AA. Without that grace, the 12 steps would be hollow in a way. They'd be sound principles, but they'd be open to fundamentalism and a dogmatic view of it. It's the livingness of the release from alcoholism. That to me is what's valuable. That's the freedom. That's the message, in a sense. A lot of times there's a lot of emphasis on doing and having. And in a sense, that's needed. It's based on what level of mind we come into this program with. And it's not good, as the Course in Miracles would say, to be confused about levels of mind. But there was a priest in the beginning of AA that said a beautiful statement. It says, most people's experience of the program is a moving away from hell, not a moving towards heaven. In my experience, there was a point where the flames of hell, like if you don't do this, you're gonna drink. Those flames of hell weren't so hot anymore. I needed something else to inspire me to go the other direction. Not the fear of what would happen if I drank, but the desire to have a direct sense of what is the source of that grace that has changed my life around. So there are a few things throughout the book, the beginning of the book, I did underline at a past time. And I like to make a statement. Everything I say here is subject to change without notice. This is a spontaneous event. I would, if I was asked to share 4 hours from now about the same thing, it would come out differently. Yeah? There's not like a cookie cutter version for me. So some of these things I did underline in Bill's story and the doctor's opinion, I'll just touch upon. So it says here on the doctor's opinion, in nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. After a time, they can't differentiate the true from the false. And if you go back to what it said in that foreword, which is we have a seemingly, we've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, that's exactly what it says. Things appear to be true or false to you based on the condition of where you're at. Yeah? So after you start drinking and using, your ability to differentiate from true and false is out the window. So most of us, there's an acronym in the program called FEAR, fear, and it's false evidence is appearing real. To me, that's the transcending mechanism of the disease. It presents false evidence to false evidence, which is you're identified as a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, and from there, there's a discrimination that you can't tell what's so or not. Yeah? So false evidence appearing real, the whole basis, false evidence cannot be real. It's false evidence, yeah? It can only appear to be real. What is the ingredient that causes something that's false to appear real? You. False evidence appears to be real based on you. The you, if suffering from alcoholism, it's going to produce a reality that ain't real. Yeah? You're going to take people as threats when they're not threatening you at all. You're going to take people who want to be of help to you as enemies. You're going to take people who are enemies to be of help to you. Yeah? So it's all about perception. It's all about the mind's condition. And the mind's condition can't be of mind. It needs another aspect. If you want to call it spirit, it needs another modality to have influence here to get relief from this modality. You're not going to find relief from this modality in this modality. Self can't get out of self. Yeah? Like I think Einstein said that you can't seek a solution from what's producing the problem. Yeah? So, let's see. Says, on the other hand, he starts describing the effects of a run on alcoholism or alcohol. But it says, on the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. This is an incredible statement. Something that had no solution since the beginning of people, civilization. I mean, winos are talked about in the Psalms of the Old Testament. He's talking about it in a miracle. He says, here's someone who can't stop drinking, who's creating huge consequences in his life, affecting everyone in a nasty way around them. And on the other hand, as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, maybe to the point where there's no desire for alcohol. Yeah? The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules, the program of AA. Now, obviously, if a psychic change produces this, it must have been a psychic condition that was producing the other shit. Yeah? So the psychic condition of alcoholism, which is, it is a psychic condition, is what's causing all those effects that we're struggling under. When there's a psychic shift, it's not saying there's a physical shift, yeah? It's not saying there's you're thinking differently, but the mind has changed. And when the mind changed, what seems to have been a dominant, hopeless state of body and mind now seems to be very, very, very uninfluential in one's life. So I think that's freaking powerful. So all these men and others, he's now in this doctor's opinion, he'd been talking about drinking and drinking and drinking. And he says, all these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomena of craving. So once you put the alcohol in, the alcoholism goes to town. Yeah? The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So this isn't a program about how to drink. It's a program of abstinence. Yeah? So just go on and I'll just read the things I underlined. I think I did these underlining years ago. So he says, all right, so this is in Bill's story where he starts learning about himself and he thinks surely the answer was self-knowledge, yeah? But in the program it says, self-knowledge availed us nothing. Now that sounds wild because a lot of value is put on knowledge in this world. But here he's saying self-knowledge will avail you nothing. What is knowledge and what is self-knowledge? All right, so let's say I'm receiving knowledge about my condition, yeah? So I'm learning about my condition of alcoholism. And that knowledge can be very valuable, but I'm identified as the parasite. I'm taking myself to be the parasite. So that would be called self, yeah? So now, when the knowledge about self is offered to me, what's receiving it is a mind in self, yeah? That knowledge about self will not lead me to freedom from self because the self has claimed it. Yeah? It's saying, I'm the one who has just learned about me. Yeah? This is one of the fundamental traps of identification as self. When you're identified as self, you'll never know it. Yeah? It's not going to, unless grace shows up or you hear it from the outside, when the identification is in place, what is not you is taken to be you. There's no question about it. You may question if you're good or bad, or if you're not enough, or you're great and this and that, but you're not going to question the basic fundamental being you. Yeah? It's not going to, the mind's not going there. So in that situation, and the movement of selfing, to me, its main movement is claiming. Yes, it takes advantage of anything it comes in contact with. In other words, it has your life. That's how it's living. It needs a life to live through. It can't live in and of itself because it doesn't have an existence, yes? It exists on the host. So if that condition, that psychic condition of being identified as self is in place, no matter how much you learn about you, it's not going to lead to freedom from you, yeah? It's not going to produce its true value, which is knowledge to me has no value unless it leads to the freedom from self. I don't want to, it's like a professor of holes. He knows all about holes. He knows all the different kind of holes, but he keeps falling in holes. What's the point of that knowledge? Yeah? The knowledge of holes would be valuable if it caused me not to fall into holes. Yeah? So this whole idea of self-knowledge avails you nothing is a very big statement to me, because the movement of selfing, which is what we're identified with, yes, is to claim or to take advantage of. So instead of just, it's presented as my, the word my. So let's say if there's this book here, yeah, and we see a book, and the book is right there. Now the book is seemingly an object in and of itself, all right? There's a book. You want to change it? Now it's my book, yeah? What does the my do? When the book is affixed with the my, the book points to the owner of the book. This is what selfing does. This is how it gets a reflection of itself all day. Instead of a body, it's my body. Whose body is it? My body. Who's that my? What is that my inferring? What is that my pointing to? It's pointing to a self. Yeah? Thoughts. They're my thoughts. Who is that my? Do you ever see the my? Or is it inferred by the claiming of all the activities of the body and the brain? It's claimed by, it's inferred, it's like a finger pointing to a phantom. Yet because it's always being pointed at, it takes itself to be so. Yeah? So a thought, the difference between a thought and my thought is unbelievable. Yeah? A thought has a nature of coming and going. You don't know where it came from and you don't know where it goes. It appears on the screen of consciousness and there's an awareness of it. Yes? What happens if a thought comes by in my head and it's affixed with the word my? Yeah? As soon as that thought is claimed to be mine, the system of thought and interpretation called selfing now injects meaning into that thought. The thought isn't bringing you a new meaning about something outside of you. It's a conveyor, and it's like a container, and it gets injected with conditional meaning that you have about you. Yes? Into that thought. The thought opens up by awareness, and now you believe the thought is bringing you all this information, but the information was downloaded from a previous thought, the thought of being you. Yeah? This is the freedom from the bondage of self. If I hold a thought to be a thought, it's so much lighter than when it becomes my thought. Yeah? Let's say they say some research that you have 70,000 thoughts a day. 70,000 thoughts a day moving through the brain. Okay, let's say each one of those thoughts weighs an ounce. And let's say in your day you're aware of, let's say, 3,000 thoughts. Let's just make it that number. So each one of those thoughts would weigh an ounce. So every day that you're attending to the thoughts, you're traveling with 3,000 ounces of weight. Yes? You've been traveling like this for quite a while, you don't even notice it. It's like having a backpack on that you don't even know you have on, okay? You're used to it, you go through your day, you go through your relationships, and it seems to be, hey, I'm sort of traveling just the way everyone else is traveling, okay? Now let's change the thought into my thought, yeah? My thought, like here. You put a word relationship here, yes? Can you see this? Well, let's just, there's a board. You put a word relationship here. You put a word health there. You put a word money there, okay? Now look at it. You hold it. Well, it matters what condition you are in a relationship. That's the meaning that's going to be provoked by that, seeing that thought, yeah? Seeing that word. Relationship. Oh, yeah. Money. If you don't have any, it's going to have a lot of meaning. Health. If you're not healthy, it's going to have meaning. Now let's change it. Let's change it dramatically. Add the word my money, my health, my relationships. Now stand and hold both of those. Hold it as relationship, thought, and money. I mean relationship, health, and money. Now hold it with my relationship, my money, my health. What's the difference? Huge difference. There's a weight to it. You don't see it, but it weighs heavier. Yeah? That's what people are traveling under. Instead of 3,000 ounces, they're traveling with 3,000 pounds. And I'm telling you, when you're traveling with 3,000 pounds, there's going to be something in you that wants freaking relief. It's going to become the main imperative. You're going to be seeking every day for something because you're carrying around a lot of freaking weight. You can't put it down because it's yours. There's been a claiming of it. You can't have freedom from a thought system if you keep thinking you're the thinker of it. If you feel you're the thinker of it, it's like when you're at a park and you're looking at 30 kids. Where does your attention go to? The one that's yours, yeah? If I'm looking at a park and there's 30 kids playing, my attention is going to rest on the one kid that I call mine. That's exactly what happens with thoughts. Thoughts keep showing up. But if they're held as my thought, I'm telling you, your interest and attention is going to follow that thought. Yeah? And when your interest and attention goes with a thought, it goes into that mental realm and you're inherently not here. And if you're not here, you're not going to be satisfied. No matter how much you have, no matter how much you've done, or no matter how much you're thinking you're going to do, you're inherently not going to be satisfied here. And you can tell that you're not satisfied because you're seeking. Yes? Seeking. It's like happens with surfing. I know people now, they judge their session. It was a beautiful day. The waves were pretty nice. But if they didn't get what they called a good ride, then the session sucked. What an insane dishonoring of the gift of just being in the water and playing around, yes? But this is what the mind does. It plays God. And this is the main thing. For me, this idea of my body, totally different than a body. My time, totally different than time. My thoughts, totally different than thoughts. It's like you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Everything's great. You're having a pretty nice time with them. You're going out to movies, hanging out. Then one day, the mind changes, and now that girlfriend becomes my girlfriend. Now everything changes. Once she becomes my girlfriend, maybe the idea that I have a right to know what she's doing when she's not with me arises. Maybe I start checking in on her business. Maybe I start finding out where she was when she wasn't with me. All of this gets initiated by the my. The my is the bondage of self. The identification, the claiming as the doer, as the haver, as like this bottle is a bottle. But as soon as it's my bottle, the bottle now reflects the me who has the bottle. A thought is a thought. As soon as it's my thought, that thought is constantly pointing at the one who's having the thought. This is the obsession with self. This is how it constantly gets reflection with everything it comes in contact with. It affixes it with the my, and then everything is used as a mirror to reflect you, the doer, you, the haver, you, the long-lasting, independent, separate entity. That's the disease of alcoholism. We're just an extreme example of self-centeredness. Everyone here is walking around in self-centeredness. We're an extreme example of it. Alcoholism is like a subdivision of self-centeredness. It's an extreme version of it. But they're all the same. Everyone is centered in self. Yeah? Everyone, when they're witnessing thoughts, there's the thought that I'm the thinker of it, or they're about me. That's the bondage. That's the bondage. We're saying maybe, just maybe, you're not that. If you're not that, I'm telling you, what gets freed is the interest and attention. Interest and attention is like a bloodhound. It's going to go to whatever you believe to be you. If you think you're an idea, if you think you're an image, if you think you're a body, well, I'll tell you something, that interest and attention is going to keep going to your body condition, going to your mental condition, going to your emotional condition. And you'll want to get relief from it, but it won't take, you can't call it off. But if you're not that, if you're not the owner of the body, if you're not the thinker of the thoughts, if you're not the true doer of the actions, then you can have relief from the actions, relief from the thoughts, yeah? And I'll tell you, the body does a lot better. Alcoholism is trippy because there's the you, which is the body, yeah? I'm sitting here right now, and from where you're looking at, I'm a you, yeah? Now it's called Paul because you've met me, but the I, which I believe is what you are, the awareness, is looking out of the eyes of that body, which is a you to me, and is seeing a you. Yeah? So always the same experience is happening, no matter how many yous there is. There's just one I seeing all these yous. Yeah? The I shifts position. At the same time I'm seeing you, the I is seeing this as a you. Yeah? Now, if you take 800 people and bring them in here, they have the same experience of this. It's a you. Every one of them would go, hey, you. Yeah? Everyone. 8 billion people. Same thing, you. What happens, though? And even when I look at it, I see it just like I see a body called you. Yeah? But my mental process goes like this. It claims the I, or the spirit that's seeing, and it weds it with the you that's being seen, and it produces this incredible bastard child, which is me. Now here, in all these people's experience, I'm a you, but I override every one of their experiences, and I stubbornly say, no, it's me. The me is the selfing. The me is the root of the disease of alcoholism, the me. If the me could be seen as not what I am, and my interest and attention left that me, then there would be enough interest to make sure the you does pretty damn good, and there'd be enough interest to be present or awake to the I-ness of life. You'd be awake to your consciousness, yeah? You would be conscious. You are that consciousness. But it's this absorption in the me. It's like being up an ass. You're so up the ass of me, you don't even see the you as a body. It's seen as your body. You don't even see it as a body. And the I, that is the activity of spirit moving through this location, this physical location, is taken to be, I'm the one who's seeing. I'm the one who's feeling. If I'm looking at something, if my eyes open, I'm going to see whatever goes by it. Yes? Am I the one that's seeing that? Or is that an afterthought to the seeing? The seeing is first. Conscious contact is what I am. So here's the conscious contact. The eye, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're feeling, you're tasting, you're touching. And in Buddhism, they say there's a sixth sense, which is the mind sees a thought like the eye would see a bird. So here's consciousness in contact here, yeah? It's through seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. The mental process arises, claims it, and now says I, this bastardized version of I, which is combined with the you and made into me, it's me that's seeing, it's me that's hearing, it's me that's feeling, it's me that's tasting. What gets forgotten is what we truly are. What's assumed to be us is an afterthought. It's an interpretation called me. This is the freedom from the bondage of self, is when you're bonded to that me as you forget the I. You forget what we are. You forget the spirit, and now you're looking for it out here when you are that which you're looking for. You can spend years, lifetimes looking. You're never going to find what you are. You are it. You can't find it. You are it. But you're not it as it's presented by the mind, the conditional mind. You are it as it's demonstrated by conscious contact. You are what's seeing, but you'll never see it. You are what's hearing, but you'll never hear it. You are what's feeling, but you will never feel it. Yeah? That's the beauty of it. You are so it, you'll never have an experience of it. Every experience is coming from it. You are so it, there's no way you could get outside of it to have an experience of it. Yeah. So in the program, the second step leads to the third step. Now, the third step in recovery is presented usually as, I'm skipping a lot, I just go off now. The third step is the main principle of the program, which is turn our will and our life over to the care of our power greater than ourselves, yeah? Of our own understanding. I'll read it what it is. Let's see. I'm forgetting the steps here. So here's step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now, obviously, a decision isn't the act itself. It's just making a decision that you're willing to do it. The act of doing that is the 4 through 9. By doing the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 step, that's the completion of the decision to turn your will and your life over. To turn your will and your life over isn't a statement. It takes appearance through doing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 12-step program. Yes, in my view. Now, being the important, this is the basic frame or the basic concept of AA, as it says right here. I'm going to read it because it's pretty powerful. It says, being convinced, this comes after, this is in a chapter called How It Works. It comes after when they describe the first 12 steps and then some aspects you have to be convinced of. It says, being convinced on page 60 in the book. Being convinced we were now at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? I'm going to read this stuff. It says, the first requirement is that we be convinced, and the definition of convinced means to believe with certainty, yeah? To know with certainty that something is so, where there's no doubt in there. Yeah? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Only by observing your past history you'll come to that conclusion. It'll be very, very clear that you're not managerial quality. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is most likely to have varied traits. Now, this aspect is usually we only take the bad, let's say, aspects of character to be like self-will. But he's saying even the good ones, like wanting to help people, this and that, may still be vested with the selfing, yeah? So usually what usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? And this is one of the main delusions of alcoholism. He says it right here. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Yeah? So no matter how much evidence that life shows you that you're not managerial quality, that urge to keep managing is very, very strong. You just think, if I only did it better, then it would work, yeah? There's never a point. See, a lot of alcoholics I know, they're not into changing themselves. They're into changing everything else around them. The last place they look for the problem is themselves. They think they have problems. They never realize, well, they do finally, that they are the problem.